moving on, we have the front axle laying here on the bench from under that old truck. And this is the passenger side kingpin and spindle. And this one is not nearly as bad as the driver's side was, but there's some wiggle in that. If you can, I hope you can see that. Yeah, there's quite a bit of wiggle in that. Actually, on the other side, it was a lot worse because the axle eye was hollowed out on the bottom, and it allowed that kingpin to work back and forth in there, and it gave it quite a bit more slack. But this one, the axle is in pretty good shape. The kingpin is worn, and the bushings are pretty well shot in the spindle, and that's what you want. That's the part you want to wear out. That's the disposable part, is that bushing. So this is wearing the way it's supposed to, and I'll be able to pop those bushings out. But my spindle is in good condition, and also where the bearings run are really good. That's all good. But you take that little bit of wiggle right there, and there's some on this side, there's some on the other side. Then you take a steering arm and the cup and ball on each end of that steering arm, where it connects on one end to the steering box and the other end to the arm that comes off of the spindle. And there's some slack in that. And then you take this tie rod, and you got some old worn out tie rod ends on each end, and you take all that slack and you add all that slack up, and pretty soon you can't hold the thing on the road. So we're going to have some new stuff and get rid of all that. And I guess I'll talk about this first. This kingpin, actually, I think this thing might just pop right out of there. So there's the spindle, there's the kingpin, and it's pretty tight in that axle. But if I have to bore the other one out and sleeve it, I'm sure I'll do this one too. Then I'll have everything nice and new on each side. But you can see this bushing is just under a light, a little more light. That's pretty well shot, this one. But that's what you want. You want the bushing to wear out, so that's okay. This other one I've already had out for a while and got cleaned up. And it really has a lot of play in that. Those bushings are just shot. But I have new ones on the way. New kingpins and bushings will be shipped out tomorrow and maybe here by the end of the week. And one thing I want to show on this spindle is that grease fitting. Look at that baby. You ever seen anything like that? That's a humdinger, isn't it? Another thing about this truck, one of the things about this truck that I really, really like is everywhere you look, there's a bow tie. There's a little Chevrolet bow tie on the pressure plate. There's one on the flywheel. Let's see if we can find one on this throwout bearing. I know it's on the, yep, there it is. Big tiny bow tie. Little Chevrolet bow tie. And there's one on the intake manifold, and there's one on the exhaust manifold. There's little bow ties everywhere. Somewhere here I have on the carburetor intake gasket. Even on the gasket, here it is. There's a little bow tie. You can see that. And genuine Chevrolet part on everything. It's stamped. And I just think that's kind of cool. The only thing I was not able to find a bow tie on was this. The only aftermarket piece I found on the whole truck was this clutch. So apparently it has had a clutch put in it at one time. But that's the story on the axle and spindles. And what happens is that other side there is really wore out. Well, what happens is this gets bored out, oversized, and then you put a sleeve in there. Then it takes you back to a standard size kingpin. So we'll have new kingpins and bushings, and I'll set that aside for a minute. There's a bag of everything off the one side, backing plate, bolts, everything off of one side, bag up and put in that bag, and because I don't know how long it'll be before I get back to this thing, or how long it'll be before I get parts, so I like to bag everything up and have it so it doesn't get lost and scattered.